What's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Freedom Stories podcast. I'm your host, as always, Pastor Fury. And as we wrap up season 3 here, episode 7, I'm super pumped to introduce you guys to an amazing woman of God who's got a prolific ministry. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a creative director and owner, an entrepreneur. She's a Renaissance woman. And enough talking about her without y'all seeing who I'm talking about, but it's none other than AI, the Anomaly. I want to welcome you to the show, to the podcast.
This is dope. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome. I'm so grateful for your time. And we're going to get into a lot of stuff today, but on the front end, I just want to say, I remember the very first time when I got a glimpse of the work that God was doing through you. Now, I didn't go into too much detail, you guys, on the front end, but she's an amazing hip hop artist. She is a lyricist and a throwback to, I think, all the stuff that I love about hip hop growing up. And I think that was one of the things that really, like, from jump, like, really excited me when I got to watch you. And I was remembering it was on Rhymes and Roses. This little video that you and a few other ladies did. Yeah, y'all represented. And I was like, hold up. Like, whoa, this goes
Every
hard.
Single one of those ladies are dope. Super dope. Yeah. Super humble. Super dope. Biblically based. They about that life. It's great to have that kind of circle, you know, and we still are connected. You know, we all are connected. Real quick, shout out to B. Angelique, Shakira, and Aisha. Those are the ladies. And Shakira is the one that started the Rhyme and Roses.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. I was actually going to ask you. Okay, because that video was labeled Rhymes and Roses 2.0. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've never heard of 1.0. What's going on here? So,
right.
Dope. That's
dope. Just this idea of bringing women together, allowing for people to or presenting women within this space within the hip hop genre, just showcasing like, yo, some spitters out here, some spitters for sure.
Yeah, y'all are definitely no slouches. And so I went on the what do they say? I went down the rabbit hole after that. I was like, oh, and like I thought everybody was fired, but there was something about your verse that just like hooked me. And so then I found I want to say right after that, then I found East Side. Yay. And I was like, oh, okay. You're repping your city, repping where you came from and everything. And I'm like, okay. See, that's when I was like, oh, she's real. Like this isn't like, you know, just some flashy hip hop artist. It was like, oh, like she's real people. And I think ever since then I've been watching from afar and trying to like, you know, see what you're doing over here. But then when I found out you were really inspired by God to pour more and more of yourself into the youth and the next generation.
Oh yeah.
That's when I was like, okay, I'm supporting this one here. This is not just some rapper. This is a woman who's on a mission, and it's a mission that I can absolutely relate to.
Well, that's
we'll get into that though. But I wanted to give everybody a bit of a context on my excitement and a lot of the things that I think from the outward perspective that people can really see and celebrate. But I know there's so much more behind you and behind the canvas.
Right. Oh man, right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Sometimes when you're moving and shaking, you don't realize how much of an effect you're having on other people. Like really, I'm just, all I could do is live and move how my heart tells me to move, or basically, and then my heart is saturated in God's word, right? So move however it tells me to move. Just use your talents, gifts, and skills. And sometimes it takes someone to say something like that and like, oh yeah, you know what? It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate you.
Well,
support. You've been supporting for a long time. You
Yeah.
really have. I appreciate it from jump.
Oh, no problem. I am excited too, and that's one of the things that I feel like too many people who don't really do a whole lot of supporting in any way, like they miss out on the blessing it is to be a part of, like knowing that you're rocking with somebody, you got their back, and like you're pouring into that, like you're
Right.
investing in that. You know,
Facts.
there's
Facts.
such a return on that people don't realize.
Yep.
Well, before we get into so much of the amazing stuff that God's doing in and through you today,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take it back real quick
Uh-oh.
if you don't mind. So this is the Freedom Stories podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and really at the heart of that is telling stories about people's journey towards freedom. And when I'm talking about freedom, I'm talking about freedom in Jesus, right? So, but before that, even like there's a lot that leads somebody to, you know, come to know who the Lord is. And I want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, and talk about some of
Of course
the
I don't mind.
challenges
Mm-hmm.
that you experience. I know, I love that about you. Like you're like at heart, like one thing that weaves through everything that you do is your story and storytelling.
Mm,
So like
true.
that's one of the things that's so beautiful about your hip hop artistry, is that you're not just up here throwing flashy bars like, oh, that was clever.
No.
Like, no, like you're telling a story.
Can't
You're
waste the
telling a
bar.
story. No.
Cannot waste the bar. It's too
Yeah. I wasn't,
speech.
you know what?
The living language is
No.
too beautiful. Too
Mm,
beautifully designed to waste words. You feel me? In my
amen.
opinion.
Amen. No, that's and it shows. And it shows in all that you write, and even in your photography, and your like it's all storytelling. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the root of that story. So
Mhm.
you grew up in Buffalo, New York, is that right?
Yep. East side.
Okay. East Side, of course,
Of
as
course.
the song
That's
very
right.
clearly represented. Um, so tell us a little bit about your upbringing, as you were young, and kind of the family situation and some of the challenges of that part of your journey.
Yeah, yeah. So I was, you know what, now I try to be careful on how I start the story, because I
Mm,
realized that the way that I was starting my story, I understand the whole situation, because usually I say, I grew up in a tough situation, traumatic, and all of these things, which it
hmm
was. To be born to a woman who has an addictive habit and substance abuse, and to not know your father, and to be placed in a foster care, that stuff is traumatic. But
hmm
I'm trying to learn to shift the way that I started. And for me, I was given this interesting opportunity as a little girl to navigate through what seemed like these would be barriers in my life, to navigate through that to get to the meat of who I needed to become. That's kind of like how I'm looking at it for now. Just
Amen.
instead of looking at it like, oh, I was definitely dealt some interesting cards. You know what I'm saying? Labeled a
Hmm
failure to thrive, and all of the odds, all of the statistics. Grew up in the hood, grew up on it, east side. East side is deemed as not much good could come from it. But you know what? All of that were though all of those things were opportunities. All
Yeah.
of those things made me who I am. I'm gentle and I'm tough. You know, I grew up being taught, you know, you don't speak until spoken to, which sometimes we feel like, well, my voice gets muffled. It does, but I also learned how to be respectful and become an active listener. So just
Yeah.
thinking about those things. But yeah, I grew up with amazing opportunities to live within a tough circumstance. And I was able to navigate because I had mentors and individuals who saw potential in me, and they continued to give me more opportunities. And I learned how to speak, how to
Mhm.
find my voice through arts. And that's what I do within my life. I never let go of arts and education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Now,
it.
early on, when you say you never let go of art, so was that the creative arts in regards to your poetry or film
Yep.
work? Which, ladies and gentlemen, she's the C. Well, I don't know if you go by CEO, but the owner, creative director of Get Focus Productions. So she's rocking that
Yes.
out. So was that first and foremost that sort of art? Was it more the musical art, or
I
what
would
was your
say
your first thing?
my first love was language. It was words,
Hmm.
storytelling, you know. When I was really young, because, so in the 80s, I grew up in the 80s. Um, I'm aging myself, but I don't look like how I'm how old I am. So as long as I'm that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. There you
So
go.
I grew up around a time where, it was a little tougher within the system. Um, in school I got into a lot of trouble. And so that led our at that time our foster mother into putting us into counseling. And so I
Mm,
went through a lot of counselors, these therapy sessions, with which what they would call them now. But there was one counselor in particular who had this way of convincing me of doing something, that in a way that I just did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that sounds
mhm,
interesting. And she told me to take a pen, take a paper, and write down how I felt, because it seemed like it's hard for you to say it. So why don't you write it down? So she
mm,
was she was very great. I'll never forget that moment, but I forgot her name. I forgot all of that other stuff. But it was at that point where I'm like, the magic of writing, creating people with your words,
mm,
creating atmospheres and settings, and just different. Your imagination is able to take you on this journey. So being able to do that, but then taking how I felt and putting it into a character, people could read it, but they wouldn't know that that's me. So it was a way to get my emotions out. So long story short, fell in love with storytelling, and then that matured
mm,
into taking stories and making them rhythmical. So that became rap, that
mhm,
became poetry, and then it, came into this space of music or what have you. But I fell in love with writing.
mm. And about how old were you in that season when you fell in with it?
Counseling, I was about 6 years old. Not that I was
Oh
writing
wow, so it was early, huh?
novels, but I was just
Right,
drawing
right, yeah,
pictures. You
but
know what I mean? I didn't come out like, oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah, to be or not to be. But
right,
I
right.
I like
But it
drew
had to start
pictures.
somewhere.
Yeah, I drew pictures. I wrote things down, and as time went on, it developed. But I was about six or
Hmm.
so. Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting that I will never forget that moment with
Mm,
her. I can't really see her face or know her name, but I
mm.
remember her giving me that paper and pen. It meant a lot to me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it was like the Lord stamped that moment on your memory.
Yeah,
That's
I'll never
beautiful.
forget. The same with
Mm,
photography. I'll never forget being in a dark room for the first time, the chemical smell, and then seeing an image appear out of nowhere on a photographic paper, and like going through this chemical process. I'm like, yo, this is dope. This is what I'm gonna do. This is it. But it was an
yeah.
interesting time in my life, because in my mind, I kept thinking that I couldn't achieve, because that's the label that was
Mm,
given to me. So in my mind, during those teenage years, I was convinced like there's just nothing for me. Like, I'm
mm,
just going to keep getting in trouble. I was kicked out of a school. I went through all of these changes and trying to identify who I was going to become. And so, given
mm,
those opportunities, which I'm like, yo, this is what we have to keep doing with our youth, it gave me a peek through of what could be. And I
mhm,
never stopped reaching towards that light. I never
mm.
stopped. I kept like I opened it up. I broke down the barriers. I peeked through the cracks. I kept pursuing what could I be. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
couldn't help but like shake loose this image as you started even just describing your first moment in the dark room, and
Hmm.
I love the way that you're reshaping your understanding of your history, and it
Right.
sounds like very much like your history was that dark room, right? And like going into it, it's just darkness, and this looks like this blank
Right.
cell, or whatever.
Right.
And then given time and the right chemicals and the
It's a
process and being
process.
patient with the process, now you've got this
Yes.
beautiful work of
Yo,
art that was
it's
there all along,
it
but
was already there.
but yeah,
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 it was already
that's
there.
so
It's just that
beautiful.
I had to go through a process to get to where I am
Mhm.
today. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how, like, and maybe it could have been anything. Maybe it could have been any form of art, you know,
Hmm.
that would have given me this kind of skill to craft like this metaphor. But this one
Right,
in
right.
particular, this photographic metaphor is like that's my life. You know,
Hmm.
to be told like, oh, you're going to end up like your mom, or oh, nothing good comes from this, or you're just a foster kid, or you have no place, and all these
Hmm.
things. And until you like accidentally, right, get dipped into this first chemical, it's like, wait a minute, that was me given these opportunities, like, wait a minute, maybe I don't have to be a failure to thrive. Maybe I can
Right.
thrive. and
Mm.
and it did something to my taste buds within my life. Like, it just, like, I kept yearning for
Mm.
that taste. And such as the same with Christianity, right? It's a process.
Yeah.
This, you're developing in life, but
Hmm.
those chemicals
Hmm.
become biblical principles that you have to saturate
Hmm.
yourself in as time goes on. And when one process is done, like in photography, you have the developer, the stop, and then the fix. The
Hmm.
developer, the paper is being developed. Whatever image has been burned onto the paper, it has to go through this development, and it's a certain time frame for that. If you take it out too
Hmm.
early, it's going to shift your results. If you take it out too
Hmm.
late, it's going to have an issue with your results, depending on what you need. And so anyway, I'm getting all nerdy and extra,
No,
but
that's dope. No, look, that's dope. Like
it,
I love the metaphor. I honestly now I'm
it's
like curious about the
fire.
stop and the fix.
Yeah. So after the developer, after you're in there for the time frame that you need to be, you go to the stop, and the stop, it stops it from developing. So it like
Hmm.
kind of it
So it doesn't
paused
develop too
it.
much. Yeah.
Exactly. It stops it. So that then you put it in the fix, and that's just like that finisher. You know,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's that final touch. And after the fix is done, mind you, the lights are out. You
Right,
can't have the
right.
lights on if you have any light shining, which is so interesting that I had to be developed in darkness, and that darkness, I hated it. I
Yeah.
hate the process. I hated that I was in this in this system, in this situation. I hated the tug. I hated the smell in the dark room, right? I hated the
Hmm.
process. It wasn't until you get into the fix, really, till you realize, oh shoot, and you can have a little light come on now. During the fix,
Hmm.
the paper can be exposed to light now, because the job is done. You feel me? And
Right,
then
right.
you
Now
have
it's just the
to kind of,
finishing touches.
now you just got to wash it all off, and then let it dry. But you could turn the light on. Until in my life, the light turned on within my mind and within my soul,
Mm.
I began to understand the process that's happening in the darkness. I
Mm.
understand the beauty of pain. And so when other circumstances come, I'm not like afraid of adversity. I'm not afraid of it. I'm actually ready. Like, oh shoot, what did I
Yeah,
learn from the last
yeah.
thing? What can I put in place? What can I do in order to combat against this? And my goodness, what will I look like at the end of this battle to be stronger? You
Mm.
feel me? So
Yeah,
I'm no
yeah.
longer afraid of the darkness. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Yeah,
You
it's
didn't know this, but like this interview, so the full length version we have on my Freedom Stories podcast, but then we always do segments of the interview on a show that I do on my YouTube channel called the Fury and Friends Show.
mm,
And in that show, there's also a Bible study. And
mm,
let me tell you, the subject of the Bible study was perseverance.
uh,
And we're gonna be talking, we're gonna be
listen.
talking about Joseph's story.
Oh, come on.
And like as you're sitting here
Perfect
talking
example.
about exactly, and like you're talking about, the darkness and the situations that are just what could be, crippling, that
Yeah,
really he was able to recognize that God is with me in this and
yeah.
went through the process. And actually
He said,
I had this verse set out here to like ask you a question to point you towards your conversation on
don't you love
perseverance,
the
but
Bible
you
though?
already
Like,
there.
don't you love listen, the Bible
The
is such a
spirit of God
beautiful,
does the thing.
yeah, yeah. This is good
No,
though.
go ahead, go
As
ahead.
for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. It's beautiful. Beautiful
Yeah,
language.
it's like looking at the work after the fix, and it's like this is what God
Yeah.
had in mind the whole time, and
And
it's
he
like,
started.
so you would put me in this dark room thinking you
Mm-hmm.
were going to shut me down, but you didn't know the God
Yeah.
already had a plan that He
Yeah.
was going to use that to make
Exactly.
this beautiful work of art.
Right.
Oh, beautiful. I don't know why you trying to preach on here already. Yeah, I didn't even get into the questions about like when you actually came to know the Lord. So let's go there. So like
Yeah.
you're in the dark room.
Yeah.
You
Right.
at one point are in foster care, and then am I right that at some point yeah, she became your adoptive
Yes.
mother, and
Mm-hmm.
so then now you're in I want to say church and after school
Yep.
activities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So walk me
Right.
through in that season of life. What do you think transpired for you to get to a place where you actually are knowing the Lord, and maybe it didn't happen immediately, or walk us
Mm-hmm.
through a little bit of that journey.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I was raised in a church. At the time, our
Mm,
foster mother who adopted us, I was 7 when she adopted us. She had us since since I was 14 months old. Um, and so we were brought up in a church, Kojic. Went to church. I felt like every day, had to wear the dresses and the Vaseline on our faces, all that stuff. And I was I had this interesting fire for God. Like I
mm,
had a high respect for him at a very young age. I
mm,
believed God to be powerful and almighty. I mean, this is what I learned in church. And so I always
mhm,
had this reverence for him and always felt the presence. Like I knew that when I was doing something wrong, I knew that he was watching, but I still did
mhm.
it. But I still felt
Right,
bad. Like,
right,
oh
right.
man, I know you're looking at
You're
me doing
aware
this.
of your rebellion.
I was very aware of God and was very like so much wanted to please him at a very
Mhm,
young age. I remember this, but constantly getting in trouble, hitting the brick wall. In my teens, I made a decision that I can't be perfect.
mhm,
I love you, God. I respect you. I have reverence for you, but this is a hard path, you know, and this is just something I just can't do. And I made a
mhm,
conscious decision to just do what I wanted to do. I knew he was
mhm,
watching. I said, "Hey, I'm your biggest mistake." I was very confident in
mhm,
believing that. And so I lived
mhm,
a lifestyle of just, I was in the street, I was doing dumb stuff. I was believing that that was my identity,
mhm,
and when I got pregnant, I had to make a decision, you know. I knew that at that moment that if I was going to go through with this pregnancy, that this child needed every part of me to
Mm.
be healthy. You
Mm.
know, I needed my mental healthy. I needed to be emotionally healthy. I needed to be spiritually healthy. I needed to be educated. I needed to be financially healthy, or there would be another cycle. And I
Mm.
that's one thing that I refused, because I would never want a child to have such a void like I did. So
Mhm.
I said, yo, I got to do
Yeah.
what I need to do. And I was convinced that the only way for me to be healthy and to sustain healthiness was to go to the only source that I knew would never fail. And that was God,
Come on.
based off of
Come on.
how I was raised, based off of what I read and studied in the Bible growing up. There was nothing in my life at that point. I've tried different things. I didn't try everything, but I tried
Mm.
enough to know that everything failed
Mm.
and it didn't bring peace. You know, none of that brought me
Yeah.
peace at the end of the day, you know, and I knew that God was able to. And so I made a conscious decision, and that was 2006, you know, 2006, 2007. And I have not
Wow.
turned back ever since. Nah.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I pray to God that my mind stays the way it does and I never turn back ever, you know.
Amen. That is powerful. The understanding that was poured into you at an early age, that even though you weren't walking out and living it out, was
Right.
there for you. That foundation. I mean, oh, it's like the word of God is true. It says, "Raise up a child,"
Right.
and
And they go
and
and they won't
when they
depart from it.
exactly,
Right.
exactly, exactly. So, and
And it
actually,
means, and that
not to
means so
testify
many
as well.
things.
That's mine as well.
Yeah.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. But like that's a different
It's
version
wild.
of my story as well. Growing up in the church, I was in the Black Methodist Church in the South Side of Chicago, and then I went off and was rebellious with my Bible with my name on it in my dorm room, and I was off doing me, and it took me till I turned 30, and also motivated by my daughter and the ways that I saw myself parenting her that looked too much like the ways that I was parented by my father. And the way that that went, I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. And he grabbed a hold of my life, and that was in 2008. So
That's
I'm
dope.
vibing with you on that. Like
Yeah.
God has his way
Hmm.
of working.
That's
So
awesome.
talk to us a little bit about since so when 2006 happens and you're like giving your life over, what were there any specific individuals
Hmm.
that were instrumental in your discipleship journey,
Yeah,
and talk about maybe some of the impact that they played in you kind of
absolutely.
developing.
So I went to a church, Mount Calvary Holy Church. Pastor or Bishop Thompson and co-pastor Thompson um, developed a family there. They
Mm.
loved on me so much, and I needed that. I needed love
Mm.
at that time in my life. I needed it so. I needed it so much. I needed it, and they loved on me. They kept me close. The word of God was preached. You know what I'm saying? Like that moment in my life, and I was pregnant when I went to the church, and I went there a couple times before I got pregnant, but
Mm.
I felt so bad about being pregnant and not being married
Mm.
because of the way I was raised. I felt like I
Yeah.
did such a disservice to God, right? Like it was the ultimate thing, which is
Mm.
really silly. Because the stuff that I did out in the street probably it was in our minds way worse, but nothing is
Right.
worse,
Right.
you know, when it
Right. It's
comes to
in. Yeah.
sin.
So. Yeah.
Um, so when I walked up on the altar, and you know, the women of the church, one of the women who is my children's godmother till this day, she came up to me. She said, "What's the matter?" Because I was just so heavy,
Mm.
and in all of that. And she said, "What happened? What's going on?" And I said, I did something terrible. Like, man. She was like, "What? Like, what?" did you kill somebody?
She went to the
I was like,
deep
I
end
was
of
like,
it.
I was like, no, no. I was like, I'm pregnant, and she was like, girl, that's it. It was the most, it was the most funniest, relieving,
Yeah, kind of
moments
liberating
of
in that moment.
love. Like I felt so,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt so liberated. Like this is not the worst thing, and God
Mm,
still loves you, even when you
yeah.
make decisions that He doesn't want for you. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? But I still want to say He is sovereign, and He is a judger of all. So I don't want
Hmm.
anybody to take that like, oh, okay, I'm good. He doesn't want
Right,
you to
right.
stay there. Like
Hmm.
he doesn't that's not the end result. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
when I realized that and understood that, and they mentored me and just really kept me under their wing, you know, I was able to develop a lot there. And I think that
Mm.
I appreciate the question because I get to talk about that moment, and I think that more people need to hear good about houses of God, and
Yeah.
understanding that the road wasn't easy. There was moments where, how people call it church hurt.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
moments where I felt like dang, like I can't do this and that because I'm pregnant. Like dang, what's going on?
Mm.
But it never stopped me from pursuing God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
respected the rules of the space, however they saw it. I knew what I wanted, and wasn't no kind of emotion or feeling or somebody did this or said this or did that and I'm not sure about it. None of that could stop me from pursuing God. Period.
Hmm.
That was not going to happen. No matter how I felt. If I felt so compelled or hurt, I'm going to that person. I'm about to talk about it. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
never want to.
Yeah.
I need people to hear that though. You know what I'm saying? Because you hear
Hmm.
the church hurt a lot. You hear the I'm leaving church because so and so or this and that happened, and it's like
Hmm.
pursue God.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't leave. People leave church and leave God at the same time. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the saddest things for me as I watch this generation
Yeah,
that yeah, I get there that many of the houses
humans
of
are
God,
being
all the
humans.
houses of God, yeah, the humans, exactly, they're filled with a bunch of us,
I
and
mean,
guess what we do,
you open up
we
the
still
Bible,
running into sin. Yeah,
right?
right, right.
It's full of them.
He's telling you. Yeah.
You feel me? Like,
But God, like, it's always God calling us to return to Him, and that's not just us individuals, that's all the sinners around you, like, so
right?
yeah, you need to be in a place that um it's understood that repentance is a part of the journey, and as a result, forgiveness needs to be as well. Right,
Man,
and like,
so much muscle,
that
so much
that
muscle gain.
yeah, yeah, and that should apply not just to the individuals, but to the institutions that we're part of. And I had my own journey with some of that as the Lord was sending me out of the church that I was associate pastor at, and into this new endeavor
Hmm.
in pastoring in micro churches, and doing things in a way that's not necessarily in a physical house, but it's focused on communities. But
Mm,
it's the same. The journey that I had to go through was one of not only my own repentance and like finding my own self-righteousness. I discovered, but also forgiveness and the places where,
right,
like, yeah, things might not have gone the way that I would have
right.
liked, and yet, like, they're still humans that God
Yes.
loves and created in His
Yep.
own image, and the same
Yes.
way that I want forgiveness when I fall short, like, I better hand
Exactly.
that out in heavy doses. So
Yes.
I definitely vibe with that.
And now, a brief moment for a word from our sponsor.
Freedom Story Studios specializes in making videos to help small businesses and nonprofits have a greater impact. Your story matters. and we want to make sure to solve your storytelling needs at reasonable prices so that you can experience greater freedom and joy in your life and in business. Go to freedomstorystudios.com today to get your project started.
And now we hope you enjoy the rest of your episode.
So you're doing life in the church and being discipled. This is 2006, 2007 going on, and kind of walk me through at the same time or maybe later your musical development and maybe the development of your hip hop career. Or I don't know, did the hip hop career start to develop, you feel like, before the photography side of things did, or which came first, chicken or the egg?
I was rapping when I was like 13 or so, right? 13, 14, and just rapping was happening at the same time as a lot of other things. Matter of fact, I did a couple singles, had them on the radio when I was younger. I had a manager, Lord have mercy, that's a whole nother story. And like I was in a studio and, just I learned a lot very young.
Yeah.
It was pretty promising. I thank God that I didn't, get too deep into it. And I was like in and out of the clubs rapping and battling. I was doing a lot.
Battling,
the battle rapper. Yeah, I was young battling grown men. They should not have had me in the club. Like, but everybody knew what I was there for, and they were like, "Okay, that's Itina." Yeah, man, I did a lot of that, which is the reason why when I made the decision to live, according to the word of God, I felt that I couldn't. I felt like I couldn't rap anymore because rapping in my mind, it was always my medicine. Music was always my medicine. But because of the things that I attached to the experience, so, smoking L in a studio, riding around,
the whole culture of hip hop.
Yeah, just I created this image in my mind. And then when you rapping, whatever you're talking about, at least for my culture, like whatever you're talking about, you're living that thing out. Right. If I'm talking about I did X, Y, and Z, I got the whatever, then that's what you're supposed to be living that out. We don't say we doing something and then come to the hood and like you not doing nothing you said. So I felt like there was this realness that I just didn't think could transition or translate over into that space. I heard of people that did Christian rap, gospel hip hop. And I thought it was all trash. And I listened to a lot of it. I'm like, this is buns. Like, I can't listen to this stuff.
Right.
So I had a war within myself with that, because you grow up and it's like, oh, if you in a church, you don't listen to curse words and all of this stuff that, as you grow in maturity, you realize, what really matters is X, Y, and Z, but long story short, because I go on these story rants. But
that's okay. I love it. You're a storyteller.
Yeah, I am. The whole point is that I felt like I couldn't rap anymore. I didn't feel connected to gospel hip hop at that time. But then, like I had an experience with like listening to The Truth, Ambassador, Cross Movement. And when they rapped, they sounded dope.
Yeah,
like they sounded dope.
This is real, yeah.
But they also like said stuff that I'm like, oh shoot, let me go look at my Bible, see if they really like.
That's biblical.
Let me look. I was like, oh, that's fire, and it was metaphorical. I was all about the lyrics. I'm like, yo, he just told a story. Like, what's going on? And so I was like, well, maybe there is space where I can talk about my growth and development while in this process. Maybe I can express myself in this art form. And so then I just kept playing around with it. And still, it was for me. You know, I wasn't like recording in the studio.
Right.
That didn't come until a little bit later, where you know, I met my husband, and you know, got connected to some individuals within his church, which became my church. So yeah, you know, the story goes on. But yeah, I was kind of standoffish at first, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that,
And so
you know, I'm glad that there was representation of quality of lyrics, production, and like a heart for God. Like that was important, because I needed those artists. Not every artist is
yeah.
for everybody. I needed
Right.
those artists at that time to kind of make me feel like, okay, I can I can do this. I can be lyrical and spit biblical truth and share my heart. I can do this. You know what I'm saying? It's important for
Absolutely.
representation.
Absolutely. And now you get to be a representative of the female, you know,
That's crazy.
like the fact that that's a reality,
Oh,
that's
it's
telling
so
ladies out there
wild.
like that could be y'all too. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
man. And I
like,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. You go ahead. You go ahead first.
No, I was just gonna connect with you because I remember the moment, and I'm not gonna go deep into it because this is your story, but I remember the moment when I had a very similar thing because I grew up in hip hop and you know Biggie and Jay-Z, Tupac, all that was my yes. And then as soon as I got saved, 2008, I'm like, okay, man, I don't know if I can rock with that right now. Like, no, I
Right.
can't. And so I was just on the, you know, just straight worship music track and you know
Mm-hmm.
gospel stuff until I remember one day I left work and the radio on the way in was like listening to a sermon. But when I was leaving work that day, there was somebody rapping, and I wasn't listening to the lyrics at first, and I was just like, "What is this?" Somehow I got on the wrong channel. Like I need to change this channel. And then I was like,
Oh
"Wait,
no,
wait a minute."
it sounds
Yeah,
oddly
yeah.
familiar. No,
Yeah. My ears are
no.
burning. Like,
This is a
but then it
sorry,
was
God.
like,
Wait.
right. That's literally the headspace I was in. So you know, and then I was like, wait a minute, he said something about God. What's going on here? And I don't remember exactly what track it was, but it was a Lecrae track. And I remember I had actually no experience of gospel hip hop before that. So I was like,
Wow.
oh,
So you
this is
just
a thing.
happened,
I
man.
just
You
happened
just
upon it.
happened to. That's
And
wild.
that
I bet that was
it was
like,
like game over.
it's
Yeah, and I
over.
was like,
Like,
I'm
oh,
finding what else
like,
is
oh,
out
I
there.
can do
Like, yeah, and I went back in. Okay, I can start writing lyrics again.
this.
Like,
Listen, exactly, yo. It was like one of those things where, like, I had a love-hate relationship with it, because, like, I would listen to some of it and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cringy." Oh, it's so it was so cringy. I was like, but I get it.
yeah,
Like I hear their heart, but it's just not there yet. Like their lyrics or the
yeah,
production or whatever it was, it just wasn't. It wasn't there yet. And so some of it, like I liked it for what it was saying. So I listened, but I dare not play that around the people I knew.
right. Like in the quiet of my own home when no one's
Like, oh,
watching.
like I
I'll be
turned it off. But but it felt liberating when
yeah,
I felt confident that I can, like, yo, listen to this. Tell me what you think about this.
right.
That felt good. I was like, yo, like who can I share this with? But and that's why
And
I'm
that's the
saying,
type of
like,
music that you're putting out there now, like real
wow, that's
music. That's
crazy,
like this
yo.
real hip hop that like people like.
Oh
So
my God.
I love being able to try and let people in on. I think one of the best secrets in music, which is
That's
AI, the
crazy.
anomaly. And so like I
Oh,
remember so
that's
you dropped that project Souls Acrylic. So when you dropped Souls Acrylic, so that was like the first project that you dropped while I was like all in, you know, for you know the music that you were doing,
wow.
and I was like, okay. So I was vibing with the whole experience, and that the track that got me that I was like, dang. And there were so many of them. But like when you did Grown Woman, like I was just like, there were so many things about it that I loved. I loved the music video and how you incorporated, you know, the grown women in your, you know, community, and that are out there, you know, actually representing what true womanhood is. And that's what I loved about you. Is that B Angelique on this track with you?
Yep.
Or is that
Okay,
yeah. So I was just like, oh, this I have played that song so many times. Like Spotify put that in my I don't know, my, you know how they do that thing at the end of the year of like your favorite songs. Like that's definitely up there. So I love that. But then, yo, you just dropped a verse with Lecrae's. I mean, it's not even a long verse, but like on Church Clothes 4, or was that 4? Was that?
Yep.
That verse. Yo, like, look, I don't pretend to be able to rap like you, but like I wrote down these lyrics and I was like, look, y'all gotta hear this. And so we talk about AI as a storyteller.
Excuse me.
She said, like you, I was on the east side too. So you got to understand the audience of this is there. It's an outreach track. You're like it's trying to communicate to those who are you know, asking these questions. So he's having this conversation, and I love how I'm like telling you about it, but like I'm listening.
No, it's cool. It's cool though. I like hearing what people get out of the lyrics. Like,
oh, you know, man, I was loving it. So you're talking as a woman of God, and I love in the video, like you're dressed, you know, kind of in a cleaned up fashion, and like I'm more put together now. But then you're letting them know where you came from. Like I was on the east side too, and then the other version, he's like, what? Knew a couple of shooters, hands high with the Ruger. Get foolish, never know what a fool might do. So it's like, yo, I've been there. I was out there on the street, you know, acting crazy. And then like I love the angry version. It's like, is you done? Yeah, exactly. You done yet? Like, come on. Like I waited to talk. And you're like, no, I was in the dark. No, truth. Gripping for a limit, but I hang by the noose. Man. And then the response, I was like, man, this just demonstrated such a tapped in to the heart of those that are far from God or questioning God. It's like, look at me. I don't look nothing at all
like you.
Right. Church full of hypocrites. They all like you. And I was like, man, and then you started getting in on love. It's like, well, love what I found when I found that truth. Love gave it all, so it's all I do. And so, and you're like this, because that's what we're leading. Like, it's all about the love, and that's what you said that you so desperately needed at your point in your journey. But then the other version is like, well, yeah. Who are you telling me? What's love gonna do? Love ain't never make my daddy come through. I was like, oh dang, like love ain't never have my mama get a roof over our heads. So tell me what a God gonna do. It's like, dang. But like that's the real pain. Yeah. And then I love how you close it up and you're like, listen, block or the church, pick a temple to run to. And I was like, what? Because like we're made to worship, right? And it's like, where are you going? Where's your community? Where's
everybody
your
everybody got a faith. Everybody got a faith. Everybody got something that they, you know, they're gravitating towards. So block of the church, pick one.
Yeah. Each side looking for the Rock of Gibraltar, standing up the cliff, either fly or you falter. I choose life in the palm of Jehovah. Like, I don't know. I was just like in the short little.
Oh, it was a difficult one. Yeah.
Yeah. You went in though. You went in.
It was it took a lot of crafting and molding to it. People, I should probably do a video and talk about that process.
Yeah,
because you know what you want to say. Like I know what I want to say, and sometimes what I do is I'll just say the thing. I'll just say it what I wanted to say, And then from there, you have to break that thing down. There's multiple ways to say one thing, and trying to fit something trying to fit a conversation in 16 bars can be difficult, right? So I couldn't be extra lyrical. I had to release myself from feeling that way. I'm like, dang, no big deal. John Keith, they gonna get so lyrical. And obviously Lecrae, but I was like, man, but my heart wants to say this. This is what I want to say. This is the misconception that I want to talk about. And so I had to take on what that called for, and it didn't call for being extra lyrical for me. And I wanted to stay true to what I wanted to say from my heart. And so I wanted to have that conversation between the new me and the old me. Like, what would have, where would I have been if I didn't make the choice? What are some things that I would have said, or whatever the case is, to someone like me now? Like, I don't look nothing like you. Like, what you talking about, man? Church full of hypocrites. They all like you.
But like that whole conversation, I love that you went that route as opposed to just dropping some really like dope lyrical bars. Like, because the truth is those tracks from my opinion, this is my opinion. I'm gonna stamp that with my opinion. The tracks with the dope lyrical bars, like, that's dope, and I think you get mad respect from people that just love hip hop. Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know to what level that there's actual like super spiritual impact. I feel like this conversation here, that like people can quickly hear themselves in that the old you side of that. And like, I'm rocking with that. And like, there's a, I don't know, there's a way that both sides of these conversations are drawing people in that makes it really, really impactful, that you don't just walk away with a bar that you remember that you thought was dope, but you're like, man, yeah, like the love of God and the impact and the choice that I have between, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
The fact that you have a choice. I think for me, the biggest thing in the decision that I made was that I followed my heart. Now, if my heart said I want to lyrically assassinate misconception, then I would have went that way. I think that us as artists, we get to choose, it, and we're being vulnerable with whatever choice we're making. And but at the end of the day, I gotta look back at the art and be happy with myself. And so I'm always making decisions for my future self when I look back at it and say, I did what I felt I needed to do, and I did well at that. And I'm happy I made that choice. Because there's some music I made, I'm like, dang, why I knew I shouldn't have said it like that. That don't even make sense. And
that is almost my entire album that I put out. I was like, whoa, bro, why? Like, clearly I'm a novice. I'm like, I clearly don't really know what I'm doing. Like, lyrically, most of the content I stand by, the production's trash. Like, I did it all myself. I didn't have a Carolina Blue or somebody who actually knew what they were doing. I was just like, well, I got Logic Pro and I know a couple of things, and I just want to put this out here. But whatever. Me and my 3 monthly listeners, we gonna be all right.
But them 3 monthly listeners, I had 3 monthly listeners at one point,
Right, exactly.
I never even focused on it. I focused on what was in my heart,
what was in
and
you,
doing what was. I don't want to compromise, so.
Amen. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up with two last questions, but there's 2 like big things I do want to talk about. So I do want to definitely talk about the project that you got coming out. By the time this actually this interview drops, the project will already come out. But first, do you mind just sharing real quick in regards to your production company? So Get Focus Productions.
Thank you.
Do you mind? Oh, no problem. Do you mind sharing real quick, like one of the greatest challenges for you as far as going pro in that regard, and one of the greatest
Yes, I can.
benefits from that decision. So
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Get Focus Productions is a media arts company that I started. I want to say maybe close to 10 years, but in the last 5, I've gone full time. And it's all about capturing human first stories, teaching the community and others how to capture their own stories, and then also giving back to the next generation of creatives. So I work with emerging artists and helping them showcase their art form, in whatever capacity, whether it's utilizing my platform and working with me and getting paid opportunities, just instilling what I believe is important for the next generation of creatives. So it's a company that I was able to build, and I love what I do. I have
Mhm.
about 2 decades of experience as it pertains to youth development and also media arts. So I'm like indulged in this thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what I do for the most part. Just managing grants and things like that for projects. And one of the things that I feel like I think you said was a challenge.
yeah,
My
yeah.
biggest challenge, believe it or not, well, my biggest challenge was myself getting
Mm,
in my own way. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, especially those that live within the sector of creativity, we get in our own way. We're just really a big, huge mountain in front of ourselves. And we fight these little battles with the smaller little warriors, like thinking that there's no support. Oh, no one's supporting me.
mm,
Oh man, I gotta do this and do that. I don't have enough capital. I don't have enough this, or I can't do this, and I can't do that. When really it's ourselves. The real
mm,
issue is we don't have enough self-esteem, or we don't have enough grit to
mm.
actually go through long suffering, and to also have creative problem solving to figure out, all right, I don't have the financial capital for this. In what ways can I gain the
Right.
financial capital? You have to have grit. And I was getting in my own way of growing and developing within my own space. I was afraid to let go. And because I'm now digging within myself to understand what are my triggers, what are some habits that
Mm,
cause me to make certain decisions. Do I have issues with finances? If I do, I need to get that under wraps so that I can be financially stable. Whatever it
right.
is that was getting in the way, fighting that stuff daily, breaking that stuff down in order to grow. And I've been able to grow a lot by letting go of my trust issues. So now I have
Mm,
uh, a list of media arts partners that go and
mm,
I'm able to direct them to go and capture different things for clients. I'm able to grow now, and they may be off doing their work, and I get to handle a board meeting or what have you. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't dig within me to figure out, oh, I got trust issues. That's why I'm not letting go. That's I have these
mm,
issues. That's why I don't know how to delegate. I'm
mm.
lack in this skill. That's why I'm not able to get to the next level. If you really want to win, it's just gonna sound so cliche. If you
No,
really
say
want
it,
to
girl.
win,
You don't know
you
you
gotta
preaching to me
win
right
within.
now. Ah, there you
You
go.
you gotta win within,
Y'all heard it
Garfield.
here first.
You really do.
Yeah.
Especially so I went through my process because I began to understand, and I'm still learning. I'm not perfect at all. Just because I'm saying it's like, oh man, she got it together. No, I'm still growing, and I love the
Yeah.
journey. This is the dark room. You know what I'm saying? Certain
Mm, yeah,
areas in my
yeah,
life are dark room areas. And I
yeah.
might be in the light on this section of my life, but this
Mm,
part still is going through the process, the development process. So
yeah.
I'm one day at a time, just growing and developing. um until I meet my maker, really. I mean, you
Amen.
can always grow. I'm always looking to grow. I, the more I
Yeah.
grow, especially within Christ, this is the choice I made within my faith, according to what I've read and what I've discovered through my process, is that the more I grow, the more I build me up, the better I am to serve. And that's why we're
Mm-hmm.
here. The better I am to
Mm-hmm.
serve the next person. The, the stories that I start to understand within myself, I get to share those. Being able to stand and
Yeah.
say, look, I grew up on the east side, but the east side isn't all that bad. I came
Mm-hmm.
from there. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Being able to
Right, right.
showcase
It
that.
produced something good. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know.
You don't, I don't know if you realize this, but like, so that was a selfish question because
Oh,
I am in the dark room in my production business that I'm trying to get off the ground now, specifically
mm,
focusing in video production. So
dope.
it's just there's so many different reasons why I'm like, man, I so connect with AI, and I'm like, I gotta find out more about your journey.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And you guys, we want to make sure before we wrap up here that we let you know about the project that she's getting ready to drop. Why don't you tell them a little bit
Right.
about Sibling Rivalry?
Yes. Sibling rivalry is such a beautiful mixture of jazz, soul, gritty, like gritty lyrics, keeping it real. It's just like a pot full of good hip hop that rap that you just remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like vintage. It's like vintage
Mm-hmm.
hip hop, if you will, but still, there's still a modern feel to it, and it's a collaboration of me and my bros, man. Me,
Yeah.
Still Out of Corner, and Carolina Blue, and we all came together. And this project was made in one night. Selah was
Really?
coming. He was coming to Buffalo to do a video with me for a song that we did. And that night, after the video shoot, we went into the studio because he wanted to meet Blue. We went to the studio. Blue started playing music. We just vibing, and it was like, yo, all right, let's rap. Let's,
That's wild.
freestyling and rapping. And by the time we were done, we was like, yo, we got a project. And we was bugging. We was
Wow.
like, yo, we got a project. What the heck? And we fine-tuned things, went back and created,
Sure.
maybe another song or what have you. But yeah, man, that was such an organic oh
Mm.
man, it's such a great vibe. I hope
Yeah.
people can feel that when they listen to it. It's like lighting an incense in your car
Mm.
and just riding at night. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a super dope project, and I love that on. Well, okay, I don't even want to say this because I don't know what's going to drop on the streaming
It don't
platforms,
matter to
but
me. I
in
tell you.
the well, in the one that went out to the Patreon, you had the instrumentals in there from
Oh yeah.
Carolina's
Yes.
production, and like
Yep.
I just vibe with instrumentals like on a
Yes.
regular. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is dope,
The three
and
bonus ones.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
and
that
those are that's only available through Bandcamp. We're not doing that on
okay.
streaming.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, people don't usually release the instrumentals like that.
Nah.
That's why I was about to say it. I was like, wait a minute, that's probably not going out. But y'all, if I don't even know if you produce this shirt anymore. Is this even coming
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
I was wearing it all day today, but I had pit stains. I'm like, I'm not wearing this for the interview.
We can't even see it.
But y'all should go and support our sister here. If you go to let me see if I got the website, goaimusic.com. She's got a shop on there where you can get some merch. You can check out more about her story and get booking, and all her links to her socials are on there as well. And the project is dropping officially on the 16th, right?
16th. That's right. I'm
Yeah.
excited for everybody to hear it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to finally be able to officially share it, like, because you released that on the inside, like that was a few months ago, right? Like it was a
Yeah,
while
you
ago.
guys got it. You guys got it really early. I was
Yeah,
like, I
I was
hope
like,
nobody
actually,
let
for a
it
while,
out.
I was like, no, but for a while, I was like, are they ever going to release this? Did something happen? Like, because I don't know how long it takes to.
There was some boundaries that we had to get through, which is what held it up.
Sure.
Things happen, and
Yeah.
it didn't. And this is another thing I want to like talk about too, as I'm moving and shaking, just sharing like the letdowns, the moments in which it's like, dang, this is not how I planned it, and then how you get through that, and there's the creative problem solving process again,
Yeah.
but yet and
Everybody
still,
don't think life is all Instagram shiny. Like
yeah, right,
there's issues that you have to overcome. You have to
exactly,
persevere through.
you
Right?
do,
Pray,
you do.
push, persevere.
Ab-
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, just things just didn't work out for a while, and then we were able to make moves and get it out here. So we're excited. I cannot wait.
Yeah. I'm glad. I mean, it kind of operates like a nice little Christmas present for folks, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
You could
I
say
think
that. Yeah, for sure.
it's perfect. It's it's going out on God's time, and I'm excited for it to be out when it
Right.
drops, so I can actually be sharing it publicly, and really so I can be listening to it more conveniently.
I
Because
know.
I stay on
I know.
Spotify. You know?
Listen, oh
So.
my gosh. I knew that was going to be tough when trying to figure out like how we wanted to put it out at first. I'm like,
Yeah.
how many people really going to take the time to go to Bandcamp and download
Right.
it? Then when you download it, it's not the same. You got to go to the
Yeah.
computer. You got to like
Yeah, and then
finagle
now how are you gonna listen to it? Where are you gonna put it? Like, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
a
hard.
lot of people did support, and I want to
Good.
say thank you for the ones that went to Bandcamp, because that's a lot to ask for. It is, because
Right.
I'm being real, because for me, I gotta really, really like your music for me to go to Bandcamp, or Josh will do it and he'll send me
Yeah.
the tracks, because I'm like, this too many things. So I get it.
To really
I
be
do
all
understand it. And like, I'm only doing it because I want to support, but I might not listen to it because
right.
I'm
Yeah,
procrastination
like
is causing me
I'm gonna
not
buy it here, but then I'm gonna go listen to it on my streamer.
to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I gotta put this on the streaming platforms for people, because I want them to hear it, and experience it in I get it, a more convenient way,
Yeah.
which is
Matter of
messed
fact, I
up.
remember before I joined the Patreon, the reason I got this T-shirt was because I was totally loving everything I was seeing that you were doing, and I was like, how can I support? You know, I was like,
Oh,
what can I do to, like, what's any little? And I know this ain't like a whole lot, but I was just like, I want to be a part of supporting you. And then I found that I think maybe you even shortly after that had started it, or I just found it, and the rest is history. So I
yeah.
wish I had the Patreon link. What is it? Patreon. Oh, we're gonna do this on the fly because y'all.
I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So y'all, as you even heard there, without me trying to so much promote it, one of the dope things about her Patreon is that when projects do come out, even if it's some of the great video projects you've been doing, like Tales from the Porch and things like that,
Yeah.
the Patreon community gets first crack at it. And
Yeah.
we have a nice little
Thank you.
chat going on in there, and
Yeah.
it's dope, and I like that it doesn't feel like so crazy with like too many people, and like
Yeah.
you actually come in and say something, so it's not, I don't know, it doesn't have like a big corporate feel. It feels more like little
Yeah.
family. So
I'm glad
I
you said
appreciate
that.
that.
I'm glad you
Yeah,
said that. I wanted to have a space to share and to talk, and I'm so busy. It's hard to keep up with
sure.
everything, but I'm like, I got to make sure I say something to my people,
Yeah,
and it might
yeah,
turn it, don't hold me to this, but it might turn out that group just stays that way, and I may have another space
do
for
something else somewhere else.
New people, because there's a lot of people who want to support, and I get it. But everyone in that group, to me, I wouldn't want them to get lost with whatever new people will want to come. You know what I mean? Like, y'all been there day ones, and I want to have the direct communication to y'all. So yeah,
I
probably
appreciate
do
that. And it was funny. Right after I said it felt like a little family, I was just thinking, like, now that I'm promoting it, I might be doing in the family. Like,
right. Yeah, that might be. It might be too late to join that. I may close that up by the end of the year. That's the hope. But
sure. Well, hey, we have gone over
time,
and I appreciate you and all that you do. I appreciate just the representative of being a woman of God and a Renaissance woman, and all the different lanes that you operate in with integrity and perseverance. Like, I'm not idolizing you by any means, but I want to celebrate the work that God's done in you and the work that you actually do to get what he's put in you out there. So keep rocking on, grown women.
Absolutely.
I'm in your corner. So
thank you. I
thank
appreciate
you for being on
man.
the pod.
Absolutely. I had a wonderful time. This was a great conversation. Real talk.
Well, hey, you guys, good. I hope you were blessed by this conversation. And once again, we want to give a big shout out to AI The Anomaly for taking time to come on our show today. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You don't want to miss a single one of these conversations that we have. Trust me, they'll continue to bless your life. And then wherever you're at, like it. If you're watching, make sure you like it on YouTube right here below. As you can see the little reminder down there. But if you're listening, go ahead and give the episode a rating, or the show a rating. That's one of the ways that people can find out about us, and you can share it with a friend. I know people will be blessed by this conversation as well. And if you want to check out more of the videos and audio shows that we do, you can check all of those out at the Freedom Story Podcast Network. So go to freedomstorypodcastnetwork.com, and we'll see you guys back here next time for the next season. Season 4 is coming up soon. All right, you guys, be blessed and be a blessing, and we'll see you on the next one.